I'm not sure if you guys will be able to hear me.
You guys can probably hear me now. I had to disconnect my Bluetooth. We'll wait a few seconds, let some people roll in. Today I get to drive all the way up to Marysville, which is really far from where I'm from. You know, it's like a 3-hour drive. I got a few stops to make along the way. Alright, sorry about that, guys. My driver's calling me, and you guys know they come first, you know. Got to take care of my drivers. I accidentally butt dialed him, and he was calling me back. So, the topic of today's live stream discussion is the fuel surcharge. I want to talk a little bit about the fuel surcharge, you know, since basically the fuel prices have, you know, doubled, almost tripled since our illustrious president, you know, shut down all of our petroleum production. So a lot of people have been talking about a fuel surcharge, right? So what is a fuel surcharge? Basically, it's a way for companies to charge for some of the fuel that they're using to do the work for the customer, right? And, you know, up to this point in my business, in the 4 years that I've been in business, I've never done a fuel surcharge. And I think probably a lot of people in the dump truck realm are probably under the same circumstances. It's kind of all new to us, you know. Not everybody in the dump truck world has a fuel surcharge. Most of us, you know, are like, what is, like, I've heard of a fuel surcharge, but what is it? How do we charge that? How do we come up with a figure, you know? And there was somebody who posted on West Coast Dump Truckers or something. They basically posted like an Excel spreadsheet kind of graph. Like, if fuel is this price, then you charge this percentage, right? And you know, I seen it. A whole bunch of people messaged me and were like, "Hey, Brian, we doing this fuel surcharge or what? Like, are we all doing this?" And you know, I think it's a general consensus that, yeah, we basically have to do this. You know, it's just a matter of when we personally feel comfortable implementing a fuel surcharge and how we do it, right? So trying to get everybody on the same page, so it's industry standard, basically, you know, just everybody across the board. That way we're not cutting anybody's throats or anything like that. You know, and so I would say for Washington State, the wet side of Washington, you know, solo dump trucks, you know, with one drop axle should be charging, you know, 125 to 130 bucks an hour, right? Without a fuel surcharge, that's what the rate is right now for those dump trucks. If you got 2 drop axles, then it bumps up to 130 to 135, right? And 3 drop axles, you're like 135-ish. You know, you'd be lucky to get 140, I think, with just 3 drop axles. Then once you bump up to truck and trailer, side dump, transfer, super dump, end dump, those are pretty much all lumped into the same category. 155 an hour. You know, 150 to 155 an hour is what they're probably charging in Washington on the wet side. I don't know about Eastern Washington. I don't know about Oregon. I'm just saying these are what you should be charging on the wet side of Washington. That's basically the standard. You know, some people might be $5 cheaper, you know, but if you're more than that, then you're probably hurting yourself, right? There's definitely enough work out there. You know, you need to be charging basically those rates I was just spitting out. So, and that was before this whole fuel crisis where the prices just went up to $6 a gallon. Right now it's March, right? And I think the price of diesel is like over $5 a gallon. So it basically went from $2 a gallon to, you know, $5+ a gallon, right? So the way we initially combated this whole price increase in the fuel and all of the inflation we've had recently, pretty much everybody bumped their rate $5 an hour, right? So some people 10. Like I bumped mine 10 an hour because I was kind of behind. I was charging $120 for the Solo, and then in October is when I bumped it up to, you know, $130, and the Super Dump was $145. Now it's $155. I was pretty much behind on a lot of things, so I bumped it up to pretty much where everybody was. $130 for the Solo, $155 for the Super Dumps. I've had people contact me, rock quarries and stuff, and they wanted me to haul for $130 with the Super Dump, and I said, you're out of your mind. Like, no, I'm not working for that. There's so much work over here that's willing to pay that. I'm not gonna take $120 for a Super Dump. You're out of your mind. You know, and basically they were kind of shocked. They're like, what? You don't want to work for that? I'm like, heck no, not when I'm over here making $155, you know? And then, so we initially combated the wage increase with the rate increase, right? The inflation went up 7%. We said, okay, $10 an hour more. But now the fuel prices have basically doubled, right? So we don't, as dump truckers, we want our customers to understand, okay, like if I just raised my rate to, let's say $160 an hour, right? $5 more an hour. They're gonna see that. They're not gonna understand the reason I'm raising it is because of the price of fuel, right? So the reason you do a fuel surcharge is so they can directly see what they're literally paying for the cost of the actual work and then the cost of the fuel, you know? It kind of breaks it down a little bit better for them to understand, like, okay, this is our trucking costs. This is why it's costing us this. Part of it, the major part, is the fuel, right? And like last summer, average, I was spending probably $150 to $300 tops for per day in fuel in a dump truck. You know, and that was pretty much standard. $500 a week for one truck, right? And now with the prices the way they are, it's pretty much doubled the price, right? So as a business owner, you got two options. You eat the cost, which means you lose that money. You're gonna lose, you know, if fuel was $500 a week and now it's $1,000 a week, you're losing $500 per week more, right? There's 52 weeks in a year, so do the math on that. 500 times 52. What's the math on that? That's a few $1,000s. So it doesn't look like a lot, But when you start putting it on paper and you start averaging it out over a year, you lose a lot of money. Nope, the Pete didn't sell yet. The guy that was gonna buy it couldn't come up with the money, and he changed his mind, and so it's still on the market. We may not sell it. You know, if it doesn't sell, I'll put it back on my insurance and I'll run it this summer. We'll see what happens. So back to what I was saying, you lose a lot of money and profit just by the way the fuel works. Okay, now there's two ways. There's a whole bunch of ways to charge for a fuel surcharge, right? You can do a flat fee. You can do a percentage. You can do, some sort of mileage. I mean, there's multiple ways that you can all do it. I'm thinking, here's the thing. If you do the flat rate, you're going to end up kind of biting yourself in the butt. Here's why I think that, okay? So, if you just say, like, okay, and I'm just going to throw out some numbers here so we can all be kind of on the same page. Ooh, taking the wrong exit here. I'll just have to get back on the freeway. Let's just say we're going to tack on $100. $100 per day to help with the cost of fuel, okay? While that sounds like a lot of money, it is a lot of money, but it's not a lot compared to what you're actually paying in extra fuel costs, right? So yes, you'd be helping yourself make up some of that money that's lost in the cost of fuel, but you're not going to make up enough to actually cover the whole increased cost. So that's why they came up with this national fuel surcharge chart, basically, where it says if the price of fuel is this, you charge this percentage of the bill, right? And so just like, let me give you kind of a small example. Like, let's say instead of charging them $100, we say we work 10-hour day, right? We're going to make this easy. Or let's say we didn't work a 10-hour day. Let's just say at the end of the day, the invoice, so $1,000. Okay, if the price of fuel is, $5, then you charge 15% of the invoice to cover the cost of the fuel increase. Diesel's $5.89 right now. Holy smokes. At the Shell. $5.89. That's redonkulous. Okay. $5.89. Man, I just lost my train of thought now. This guy's got dump truck tires in the back of his pickup. Okay, so $1,000 surcharge, 15%. That's $150. So if you would have charged only 100, okay, I need to get over. Missed my exit. Okay. So $150, $50 goes a lot further for buying the gas. So that's why a lot of guys aren't really doing the flat rate. Now let's say, it could be a wash though, because let's say you work, 4 hours and your bill is only, for $500, and then you're charging an extra $100, you may end up making a little more than if you charged a percentage. So it may be a wash. Like, nobody can really calculate which is the best way to do this. Like, there's not like a calculator where you can just, take your QuickBooks and sync it with this program, and it says, okay, this is the best way for you to charge a fuel surcharge, and you're guaranteed to not lose any money on fuel this way. There's really no way to do that, right? So that's why a lot of people will do the percentage scale for their fuel surcharge, because they'll basically look at the week's prices of fuel and they'll say, okay, the highest price was this, we're charging this percentage. And, you know, with QuickBooks, it's really easy because you just put in a line item, fuel surcharge, and then, you know, depending on what the price of fuel was, you either put 15%, 16%, and, you know, QuickBooks will calculate it all out for you. You don't have to do any math. So that's pretty easy. But, you know, a lot of people, you know, are not, like, really QuickBooks literate, per se. Like, me, for example, I'm a redneck, you know. I don't really do computer stuff, right? So, a lot of these type of things, we end up kind of going off our gut feeling, like, okay, this feels like it's going to work. You know, let's charge this, you know. A lot of us end up doing that. And then if it works, then we're like, great, let's keep it like that. And then sometimes we're like, oh, shoot, that did not work out. Like, you get to the end and you see what you're making and you're like, oh, this is not working. We need to charge more. You know, and that's basically like the process of learning. I went through that process several times, you know, learning to bid jobs with my excavators. You know, I started out charging by the hour, and now I will not charge by the hour. It's always a bid, right? Because once you know how to bid, once you know how to calculate those charges, it's way easier and you make way more money, right? It just gives you a lot more control over what you're making, per se, right? Like, if you're just charging by the hour, then you're just going to get paid what it is. You get paid whatever it takes, right? But if you do a bid, you know, for like an excavation job, it may take you half the amount of time your allowance is, and you just tripled your profit, you know, or doubled your profit. So that, I think the percentage scale is probably a better way to go off of for like the fuel surcharge. Now, I don't know if I'm going to go off of, when I do mine, I don't know if I'm going to go off of that exact scale. I might tone it down a notch or two from what I've seen. But the mistake is not charging anything. That's really what the big mistake will be for dump truckers. If they don't take the time to research into this and see what other people are charging. If you don't charge anything for a fuel surcharge, it will come back to bite you. You'll be 6 months down. It'll take you 6 months to realize it. And then you're, you know, unless you're looking at your profit and loss every single day or your graphs every single day, you're not going to notice the loss in revenue until it's like, oh snap, we worked all summer and we lost $5,000 just in elevated fuel prices. So, you know, it's really that simple, guys. So, you know, make sure you charge a fuel surcharge. And it's getting warm in here. Going to buy a breaker right now. Going to buy a concrete breaker. I got a little bit of dough on me. Got a nice stack right here. So anyways, guys, look into the fuel surcharge charts. Do your research. One of the most important things you can do, though, communicate with your customers. Communicate with them. Because The biggest mistake you're going to make is you send them a bill with the fuel surcharge on there without giving them a heads up. And they're going to be like, oh man, this guy, he's got the nerve to charge me this without giving me a heads up. Like, oh, hell no. You know, so make sure you reach out to your customers immediately. Before you do anything, you need to reach out to them and say, hey man, like, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but the bad news is there's gonna be a fuel surcharge because we can only eat so much of this up, you know? And they, you know, they're facing the same types of problems. Okay, I need to turn in there. So, homeboy, you need to move up. Okay, I'll just wait for him. Whoa, you better not run into me, Grandma. Woo, that was close. That grandma almost just backed right into the side of my pickup truck. Oh man, that was gonna turn into a crappy day. Okay, so yeah, communicate with them and give them like, don't just spring it on them. Like, hey man, tomorrow going forward, we got a fuel surcharge. Give them a month. You're gonna eat some of the loss. You're gonna eat it, but what they'll see that though, they'll see, okay, he didn't just spring it on us and then, you know, immediately start charging us. You know, it takes time for the contractors to catch up to that type of increase. They've already bid jobs. They're 3 months out in jobs. So those 3 months worth, guess what? If you spring it on them right now, they just lost 3 months worth of those fuel prices, right? So here's the thing. You can't just spring it on them. So talk to them, give them a month, 2 months, whatever, you know, but they need to know now. You need to tell them now, hey, it's not happening today, but within a month or two, we will be doing a fuel surcharge. This is what it will be, and make everything clear as day to them so they can tell their customers, because it's going to go up the chain. I mean, it's got to go, you know, everybody's got to find out about it. It can't just happen overnight. That's when you start getting your customers mad at you, right? You don't want to do that. That's not gonna go there. So, you know, the main thing is let them know in advance. You know what? I was gonna pay the rock quarry today, and I forgot to stop in because I started the live stream. That's what I forgot to do. Oh well, I'll go there tomorrow and pay him. So yeah, tell them about the fuel surcharge. Do your research. Send them like a nice company email saying, hey man, this sucks. This is what it is. You know, pretty much everybody's doing this. You know, time to add a fuel surcharge into your contract clause, you know, because we can't all eat this cost up, you know. Fuel is literally one of the biggest expenses in our businesses in the dump truck realm. Like, literally, like, I'm looking at my P&L right now. Here's my P&L right here from last year. Let me tell you how much I spent in fuel. Where is it? Where is it? Fuel expense. There it is right there. $106,391.91 for VANDUYN dump trucking. In the year 2021, I spent $106,391 in just fuel. And that was when the average price of fuel was $1, you know, or like $2.80 to $3. If the price continues at around $6, that's going to be double. I'll spend $200,000 in just fuel alone, right? I'm not trying to shock you guys. It is what it is. You don't want to lose $100,000 in revenue because you forgot to do a fuel surcharge, right? $100,000, right? If your business is the same size as mine and you do the same amount of revenue and everything, you know, fuel price doubled, so that equals basically $212,000 in just fuel, right? Now, $106,000 over 12 months, what's that? Like $12,000 a month? You'd probably notice $12,000 a month in lost revenue pretty quick, you know. But if you did your rate increase along with everybody else, you might not notice as much, you know. Anyways, guys, I got to go into the bank. I'll catch you guys on there. Don't forget to pound that like button and pound that subscribe button, and I will catch you guys on the next live stream.